Hello?
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Folks are coming in from LinkedIn. I was worried that LinkedIn wouldn't work, so it's great, it's working. Arlemy must have fixed the integration there. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. My name is Joyce. I am with Postman in developer relations, and I am based in sunny old San Francisco. Do we want to introduce ourselves? Ruby, you want to go next?
Yeah. I'm Ruby. I am in Rhode Island, so Providence specifically. I'm on the East Coast. Excited to be here. Passing this to Carson.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Carson Hunter. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, also on the East Coast. I'm a technical enablement architect on our solutions engineering team.
Yeah, and you guys have both been on the streams before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're like back for more. And both of you are technical enablement architects, which is not my team, but we work closely together. Can you just remind me again, like, what is it you do?
You want to take it away, Carson? Or
Yeah, I always like Ruby's description as we're like professional enablers. So we help the solutions engineering team and entire customer org kind of get up to speed on all the new stuff that's coming out in Postman. We create demos so that people can see like all the cool features in Postman. Yeah, anything to add, Ruby? I feel like we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we do. We straddle a lot here. But we support internal and external teams with technical stuff. So sometimes we'll jump on customer calls and be that technical consult similar to SEs. And other times, internal teams need some help figuring out some new updates or product releases, and we're the go-to people for that too.
Well, this is a perfect segue. I didn't actually realize you guys did all that, but this is a perfect segue because we begin all of our streams with a segment called In Case You Missed It. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I am not going to show you anything new that's released because, and I'll tell you why in a sec, because yesterday myself and Arlemy had a space camp, and you can see what upcoming sessions are. I'll drop a link to this in the chat. Hello from India. I'm scrolling down, and just yesterday we had unboxing what's new in Q2. So Arlemy and I spent about an hour going through all the what's new in Q2 releases, lots of stuff. And in fact, he went back a little bit before the second quarter to talk about some things that are relatively new. If you're kind of like been out of the Postman ecosystem for a while and you're like, oh my God, every time I log in, there's like a new button or there's a new feature or something new. This is a really great way to catch up on it. And then he also showed us a sneak peek of something that's not even out yet. He got permission, don't worry. But it's a pretty, I'll drop a link to this precise event, and we'll have the YouTube video posted probably later today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That was our brief in case you missed it. But did I bring my screen on the stream? I didn't, did I?
I don't think so.
This is the second time today I thought I was sharing my screen and I wasn't. So it's a good thing I dropped the links. I feel like I'm so fuzzy. Oh, what's the topic? Hello from, is that New Jersey? Our logo is so big I can barely see the topics that are coming in. Too much is new in 22. Oh, we should have. Well, maybe we'll use that as our Q3 update title. That's a cute one, Chris Sobek. Hello from New Jersey. What is the topic? Okay, so quit chatting folks, let's just get to the topic. Carson, do you want to tell us what we're going to do today?
Yeah, I can attempt. So I feel like this all kind of spurred for me from a few months ago, I guess, when Joyce released a collection and a blog post around workspace linting, team linting, where she was kind of scraping Postman HTML to get an overview of like how your team's, workspaces and public profile kind of stack up and how you can make them better. And she was, getting all that publicly available information, not through an API, but from like the HTML itself. And I thought that was so cool. And I don't really know how it works completely. So I was hoping to learn a little more about it.
So this is probably going to be an interesting stream for people who are into web development, people who work with websites. So if you're testing websites, if you're documenting websites, if you're developing them, when I made that linter, it was because it was because my job was looking at stuff all day long and then being like, that's not right. Oh, you forgot that. And I was like, we can programatize this. And I built like some linter that scrapes HTML. But what do you want to do with that, Carson?
Yeah, so I, have been thinking a little bit about how we can give people kind of an overview of their like public presence. And I love making a visualizer. If anyone at Postman knows me, they know I love making a visualizer. So I thought it'd be cool to maybe take that info, put it into a visualizer, and maybe also get some additional information, maybe like fork and watch counts to kind of see which are your most popular, assets, something like that. But kind of whatever comes to us, just exploring that method a little more and seeing what other information we could get.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to drop a link. I'm going to show you one thing. Ruby, have you ever, okay, this time I will share my screen. Please tell me if I'm not sharing my screen.
You are now, yes.
You're on.
Okay. So this is really, really small, but I'm going to zoom in. I don't want you don't have to look at anything except for this fork count. This is my public workspace linter. I will go ahead and drop a link to that so you can look at it. And in fact, if you guys go there now, we'll see your face. Not your face, but your avatar. But when I create something, I always look at fork count and watch count because it's like a GitHub repository where it stars and count of forks. That's going to be what's important to the creator, just to see like how well does it resonate. And so as far as I know, the Postman API doesn't return the fork count there's no endpoint that reports on forks, right? But you're, right. Oh my God. Is this Carson? Yes, Carson is here. Hi. Oh, there's Anonymous. Anonymous is here with us too. And so like you're saying you want to essentially render this page and then scrape this number from the HTML.
I think it would be cool. So you could kind of get, across all of your workspaces, what are your most popular collections? Like what are people watching the most? What are people forking the most?
Yeah. And I think Ian is here. Ian, thank you so much for reposting that link in LinkedIn. But it's kind of interesting because I think Ian had a stream a few weeks ago about parsing HTML and it was painstaking. Like, well, we'll get to the pain. We'll get to the pain soon. Don't worry. Don't you worry. Okay. All right. So who wants to start? Not me. I'm not it.
Go ahead, Carson.
Should I start? We can just poke around in some HTML.
Yeah, let's get our hands dirty.
Awesome.
Okay, so Carson, you're volunteering to drive?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to bring your screen on and I'm going to minimize the chat just so we have a little bit more real estate, but I'll keep an eye on it. And if you have questions or, if we get stuck and you want to help out or just explain to the rest of the audience what's going on, feel free to continue answering in chat. I'll keep an eye on it.
Cool. So I set up this blank workspace that's only got like my Postman API key already in there, already masked, so I wouldn't mess that up. But where is the best place to start when you start poking around with HTML? What are the types of things you explore? Do you send a Postman request or do you like inspect the Chrome window?
I usually jump in with DevTools. to inspect through Chrome.
Awesome. So we'll get that pulled up. Is this readable on the screen? Is it too small?
It's definitely too small, but we can see the general shapes. So what's the difference, Ruby? How come you I mean, you work at Postman. How come you don't inspect this in Postman?
I think that's just the way that I had been used to it before Postman. And so, it's just familiar for me. But
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know how to do it within Postman.
I think a lot of people use Postman to hit endpoints and never realizing that, a website location is I don't know if this is accurate, but an endpoint, and you can return the HTML by hitting it in Postman. But I also love DevTools.
Yeah. Should we create a collection so we can start kind of poking around with the different elements inside of a collection?
Let's do it.
I guess. Call this our HTML expression. See. So we're interested in these fork and watch counts. See. Joyce, as the kind of dynamic rendering expert, anything?
Please don't call me that. Okay, so two things I'm noticing. One is you plan to do your development work in a team workspace. I'm looking at the two-head icon up in the top left. Are you planning on scraping something in a team or private workspace?
I think so for now, right?
Yeah, so when I was scraping stuff that was publicly available. And so if you plan on scraping stuff that's private, you'll need to make sure that you are authorized, to see that content.
That makes sense. So I'm assuming when we're scraping, we'll put in like the URL.
The target must be public. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we'll need to find something worthy of scraping.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have anything they want scraped?
Like a website?
Yeah, or a Postman collection, I guess.
So I personally, like my team, it's kind of like tweets, right? How many likes does your tweet get? How many retweets does your tweet get? Twitter's API offers that. Does it? Am I just missing? Surely they offer it. Well, I say surely, but then Postman doesn't offer fork count. So yeah, we could scrape a collection and determine like forks. Do you guys both have public collections, right? Do you want to do a little friendly competition, a leaderboard to see who has the most forks?
Sure.
Yeah, off the top of my mind, I think the Black History API workspace and then also the Women's History one, those should be public.
Yeah.
And we did have a question from Vicheda. Sorry, the screen is very small. Is this free or paid? I think everything we're working on today is going to be free. We're just experimenting with some of the fundamental API client and inspection capabilities today. So stick around if you're not on a paid team.
Awesome. So let's see. We've got 5 forks and 3 watches on this one. 1 and 1, 1 and 0. So I feel like this is our top collection of this workspace. Let's go ahead and grab this URL. Let's go back to our dynamic rendering.
So did you use your eyeballs to determine the highest forked collection?
I did. So I think that's against kind of the ethos of what we're doing here. But okay. Yeah, for now.
There's some times where that's allowed.
Yeah, we'll get to the automation, hopefully.
The automation can affirm it, so.
Yeah.
Ruby, what was the other workspace you were talking about?
There's also the Women's History workspace that Carson built out in March.
I'll drop a link to that one as well.
I'll close these DevTools for now. Search for women's history. 1 and 2, 0 and 0, 1 and 1. So we've seen the results, but let's see if Postman, I guess, can confirm them. So from here,
what is
I guess,
the URL? What URL are you putting in there?
Yeah, so I was just going to Postman in the web and clicking on each collection. And so each collection has its own unique URL. And so it's just grabbing whatever comes up when we're on kind of the collection homepage. Do you think that's the best place to start?
I think so. So I'm used to using Postman in the web client, but a lot of folks are still using the desktop client. If I'm not mistaken, there is the ability to get a link from the desktop client. And then you can, then it'll redirect to like a browser, of course, but you should be able to take any website that you want, or in this case, a link to a collection.
Awesome. So I think this would still show up in the desktop client. Is that where it would be?
I don't remember the precise location, but
yeah.
look around for it.
Somewhere around here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we send these, we are getting back HTML. If we were to use like the Postman API, we would get back just the collection in JSON format. So we could get the data from the collection and all the requests. So this is quite a lot. I guess we should go to the preview to make it a little more, pretty for parsing the HTML.
So one question I get all the time is how there's nothing under the preview. Like maybe open up another tab where we, Ruby, what's the website that you had that you wanted to just look at? Just open another tab, enter a new URL, and then see what the preview is.
Yeah. Am I sharing or
no, just what's the URL?
For the website that I was thinking was literally just my personal website, rubysattar.com.
Okay, so we'll be able to see how you built it by inspecting a little bit. Yeah.
You'll see all my spaghetti code.
Okay, we actually might, I'm curious what we'll see. Okay, so we're here in the browser. Now, Carson, drop that URL into Postman and we'll see what Postman can see.
Okay.
So again, you have the HTML. Tab over to preview. Okay, so this looks kind of different. Like, do we know why it looks like this?
I'm guessing this has to do with the theme of dynamic rendering versus rendering it on the server. Is that?
So interestingly, I can still see the content. So if we go, let's see. Okay, so there's here's some handy information and some bullets. Now go over to the website that Chrome rendered and then find that spot. That's a beautiful picture. Is that
here?
You're like a model. Is that Egypt? I don't want to.
It is Egypt, yes.
Okay. So where's the here? Okay, so here's the handy, and then you see the bullets. And in this scenario, it looks like Ruby. Tell us what you used to like position those bullets. Do you remember?
I think I used HTML, like inline styling in the HTML to make that happen.
Okay, so you're not using any kind of frameworks. You're not using you're just using HTML. So we still see the content. It's rendered, but why does it look like that in Postman? I don't really know true answer. Pedantic people, please weigh in and tell me why it's not there. But a lot of times, like, stuff doesn't render, content doesn't render, and then the styling doesn't render because it relies on JavaScript. And so if you strip away the JavaScript to a lot of modern websites, it looks like what we saw in Postman. Okay, so this is beautiful, beautiful, but let's go to Postman because we want to programmatically access this HTML, this content that's rendered. And so Ruby, you did not build a dynamically rendered website. And I think I'll tell you why at the very end of this, but you just wanted to present some information. It's relatively static. You might take another vacation, have a beautiful picture and update that picture, but you're not like constantly like, you're not like github.com where you want your latest repos to show up. You want your latest fork count or stars to show up.
Yeah, it's pretty static.
Okay, so we're looking at the preview or pretty view, and then now go back to the raw or pretty, sorry, whichever one is on the left. Yes, okay, here we go. And so when I'm parse, how do you parse? When you look at raw HTML, what do you do first?
I personally do like a Command F for kind of my anchor point that I want to find. So let's see what we want to find. Maybe we'll search for technical architect and kind of see how this heading is set up. Inside of here. Okay, so this seems to match up. We've got an H3 header. It's inside of a div. We seem to have found the spot in the HTML that we're looking at on the website.
Yeah, and so Nirjala is confirming the reason why the, what's the view? Preview mode in Postman, it's not bringing in the CSS. And so there might be some sort of dependency that relies on JavaScript. There's a lot of and then if you had cute little like JavaScript enabled interactions that wasn't pure like HTML, then that would be just a blank spot maybe. Okay. Ooh. Here's a little foreshadowing. Oh, semi-foreshadowing. So Semi is asking, do you have interceptor extension? So Ruby's website is static. Ruby wants everyone to be able to hit it and display the same content to anybody who visits the website. And Postman.com, the collections we were looking at earlier is the same. But I think Ruby, you and I were talking about github.com earlier today, and it's kind of interesting because github.com won't display the same thing to everyone that hits that base URL. Do we want to switch over there? Because I think Semi has a good segue into the interceptor extension, which has some cool capabilities. Okay, I'm going to unshare Carson's screen, and I'm going to bring Ruby's screen on. Another great picture.
With this long hair that I do not have yet.
Okay, so github.com, like, I can't quite see the domain URL. Is it just github.com?
Yep, /Ruby Sattar. So it's on my profile, but I can just go to the home page here.
Okay, so you're logged in, so you see your homepage. If I go to github.com, I will not see Ruby's contact, or I won't see Ruby's like history and all that kind of stuff, right?
That should be true, yes.
Theoretically.
We hope so.
So let's copy and paste github.com into Postman and see what we get.
Let me see. I'll create a new workspace. Terrible name. I'll make a new collection.
Can you zoom in like 3? Thank you. And can you, are you able to drag your sidebar closed? Very nice. Okay. So can you scroll up to the head and try to collapse the head in the accordion? scroll up to the top of the response.
Up here? Okay.
Yeah, in the HTML. Yeah, so see head there? Can you collapse head? Okay, so like we know, well, I don't know. Like I'm no web dev. What's in the head? What typically goes in the head?
I'd assume some like metadata. So I just any resources that you'd be using.
Yeah, so you can like import some I don't know if import's the right word, but import some dependencies. You probably have your Google Analytics tag in there, but like there's no content being rendered in the head, right? So let's collapse the head. So this is how I parse. Carson parses by doing a find or that little magnifying glass and looks for specific anchor tags, but I'm like, what is this page? I don't know what it is. Okay, so now we're in the body. We expect some sort of, you can actually see some of these elements. It's very small, so maybe you can narrate like what you're looking at.
Yep, so this is everything that we see in the UI. I see a couple of divs.
Is it? Let's hit the preview.
Oh, wow.
So where's your history, right?
Yeah.
Any hypotheses? I feel like Dora the Explorer here.
Where's our map?
So if you scroll to the very top, you can see there's a sign in, sign up prompt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So including github.com in Postman, hitting github.com in Postman returns a non-logged in user, which is totally acceptable because Carson shouldn't be able to hit this and return Ruby's information. So how would you think that you go about logging in? Do you think you could click that button and like log in?
And find out. Nope.
You cannot. So it's just returning the HTML, but it's not like interactive. It doesn't have like the JavaScript. It doesn't have the API calls all like, it's not an actual web page that's being rendered.
We'd have to do some kind of authentication here, I suppose, to try to log in and see my history.
Yeah, so I don't know how would you think that you authorize your API call or website call?
I feel like there is a GitHub API maybe that we can use that has an authentication flow.
It does, but I think that's for the API, right? So the GitHub API returns information about GitHub, your repos, the user, like all that kind of stuff. But we're trying to return information about the web page. Yeah. So there's, have you ever synced your cookies using Postman, Ruby?
I have not, actually.
Oh, gosh. This is going to be so fun. Carson, have you done this before?
I haven't.
Well, it's been a while since I have, so this is going to be tricky. Okay, so Postman does have a feature, and Simi mentioned this earlier, kind of related. It's not quite the same, but talked about the interceptor extension. In that same general area, and they've moved it, so I hope I can find it. Postman engineers have moved it, rather, because we also work at Postman. There is a way to sync. Okay. So we're hovering over on the cookie section. Click it and let's see what's happening.
Cool. Okay.
Carson, you used to do web dev. Do you know what cookies are?
Yeah, vaguely. I couldn't teach a course on it or anything, but it kind of tracks you across your websites and kind of maintains your, like if you're logged in, you can kind of stay logged in instead of logging in every time. Exactly.
And it's a teeny little, I couldn't teach a course either, but it's a teeny little piece of code that tracks you and sometimes is cookie authenticated so that the next time you go back, the website knows like, oh, you were here before, or this is who you are kind of thing. So you had a couple cookies, right? Okay, yeah. Here's some more official information. It's a key value store up to 4 kilobytes per cookie. Okay, well, that's just like metadata about the cookie. And it looks like you have, oh, see, you're being tracked and you're already being, you're being watched. Being watched.
I feel like Big Brother's around the corner. Just kidding.
So you have actual cookies there and you can Does it say like import? You can manually add cookies if you want.
Yeah. But I think I might want to sync cookies, right? Because I am logged into GitHub.
Yes. So what you're syncing between is you're connecting the Postman app, and you're in the desktop app right now,
Yeah.
with the browser extension. And so, sorry, I'm reading this thing, and that's not what we want to necessarily use. But you're syncing your instance in Chrome with Postman desktop. And so any cookies being collected by Chrome browser rather, are being synced with Postman. And then you can reuse those same cookies and see potentially a cookie authenticated view. I don't know. Let's see how it works.
I'm just going to guess that this is where I throw in github.com. Oh, do I need to install this too?
You do need to enable the bridge.
Cool. I did just install this. Okay, there, perfect.
Exactly.
Cool. So it's syncing now, apparently.
Okay, so close that window and let us
send it again.
Yes, send it again, and then.
Oh.
Ooh. Is this your information?
It is. I mean, it's buffering, but it would be, I guess.
So it's a slightly different view. It at least will eventually present your information. It's not prompting you. You're not an unlogged in user. I don't know that word. Unauthenticated user. So that's what Postman's doing now. But like, you can also, I would stop the sync just so you know, because I know Ruby explicitly grants permissions to specific apps. So then you can unsync the domain, and you can also delete that GitHub cookie. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and delete all your cookies. Or there's a big X on the far right.
Oh,
yeah.
check that out. Nice.
And then
if you know what, I don't need that either.
Yeah, clear all your cookies, unless like it's doing something for you. And then X out of there, and then hit send again. Theoretically, Postman should not be syncing your cookies anymore. Yes. Okay. So that's how you can sync cookies. Carson, do you think we would be able to, I don't know the answer to this. Do you think we would be able to scrape postman.com by syncing cookies?
I guess, what cookies are we looking for? Like, we would need to be logged in. Would we need to scrape cookies to get like private or team workspaces that weren't public? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking through this, but I think that we would be able to access information like that in the rendered HTML. However, we were doing it in Postman, right? We had to manually sync our cookies, and then we're manually looking at it with our eyeballs here. We can write some code to scrape it afterwards, but how do we programmatically later on like continue to do this? And I'm wondering if syncing cookies is not scalable.
Yeah, you might be right.
Okay. This was a good exploration. Bravo. Okay, I'm going to share Carson's screen again. So I'm going to take Ruby's off the screen and bring Carson's back. And we did have a suggestion to see like, what does the /username look like? But I feel like the /username would look the same for everyone. No?
Yeah, especially after it's synced, it would just look the same as I expected on GitHub.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe not cookie syncing. What else? Do we want to look at the linter to see how I did it?
Yeah, I think so. So is it called just workspace linter?
Probably. I'm not creative.
Public workspace linter.
I'll drop a link to it again if folks want to look at it themselves.
I'm going to fork it to our workspace. Okay. So do you want to kind of talk through the overview of kind of what's going on, then we can look at the specifics of it?
Sure. So we mentioned at the beginning of our stream that I was just trying to programatize some things that I was doing manually. And one of the things was to tell people how good their collections are or how undocumented they are. And so we already looked at a couple examples of the Black History and the Women's History Month workspaces. And I don't know if month is in there. We already looked at some well-documented, subjectively well-documented workspaces, but like, are they objectively well-documented? And so if you expand the collection, you can see that there's a little bit of setup required, but then we're checking team profile. Is your team profile complete? Workspace. Did you add documentation? Collection, API checker, and then coming up with the total score. So let's just try it out. I think that's the best way to understand what's going on.
Yeah. So from looking at this earlier, I know we needed to fill in our domain. Should we keep it with, it's set up with Stripe. Should we keep it with that? Or is there another team we should try it out with?
Yeah, if there's anyone on the stream that wants us to lint their, to critique their public team, feel free. Try My Loopy is here. Hey, you made it. Friday
Eve.
Oh.
Friday Junior.
Oh gosh, I've been so distracted all day. Yeah, so if anybody has a like a team, public team that they want to put in there, go ahead and drop it in there. Otherwise, like, ladies, we all work at Postman. We're absolutely fine with critiquing ourselves. We can leave it Stripe Dev. I don't think they have a perfect score, if I remember correctly. Don't want to embarrass anyone.
We could do one of our demo teams. Carson, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Do you know any of the URLs off the top of your head?
Pull it up so we can see where you get the,
Okay.
Yeah.
Pulling up.
Is this a 90s song?
What is time?
Okay, so for some background, Ruby and I created like with the help of solutions engineering team, 6 different like Postman teams, and they're all different industries. And we tried to name them, a fake company. Usually the initials are PM. So this is Perpetual Motion Insurance. We have like a public workspace for each of them. So we've got PNC InsurTech. And so.
But we want the domain, right? So
yeah.
Up in the URL is where we want to look.
So our official team slug, I guess, is just insurance demo.
That's not exciting.
It's accurate. Okay. And replace this one too. Okay. And then we're ready to run.
Yes. Did you save your changes?
I saved them, got the console open and clear. And we'll run.
Oh, I see some red. Can you read it out loud? I can't quite see it.
Yeah, sorry, this is tiny. So insurance demo achieved 7 out of 11. Filter on the failed test to see how you can improve and reference the additional resources listed in the description of this collection.
So at the top, filter on the failed tests.
Okay.
Did you guys see that new skipped test header? That's pretty neat.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it's neat, and I don't really like skip tests. Testers have been well, not just testers. Devs have been asking for this forever. Okay, so what failed?
So under the team profile checker, check profile images. We got to update our cover image. I don't think we have a cover image. We've got a nice little profile image. Check profile bio and links. Might need to fill that out a little bit more. We could add our GitHub or something. Check overview summaries. Do you know what this overview summaries is? Is that for workspaces?
Yeah, but like, so this is dumbly checking your team profile, and it's like, this is missing, this is missing, this is missing. But how is it doing that, right? Because we want to see how does postman.com work. In the title of this stream that I'm reading off the screen right now is called Dynamic Rendering for Client-Side Apps. So while I was trying to build this linter to scrape Postman, I was like, how do I do it? Because every time I would go to, the raw HTML returned, it would just be blank. Because Postman web client is a client-side rendered app, and I couldn't figure it out until I talked to an engineer. Do you want to poke into the request to see how it's done?
Yeah. So I'm guessing this is under the team profile checker. We'll close our console. So we're in the test tab. Is this big enough? I'll try and close all of my things.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're checking the profile images. Or I guess up at the top, we've got Cheerio loaded, which is an external library. Is it already in the Postman sandbox? I guess you have to kind of load it in there. So we're getting our Postman response, and we're getting it as text. Usually we get it as JSON, but since this is coming back as HTML, I'm guessing we're just searching it as raw text. And then several tests here where we're checking the profile images. And under PM expect, you've got this, $, which seems like it's invoking Cheerio. Is that right? So telling it to kind of parse the HTML.
I copied and pasted from the docs.
It looks a lot like jQuery, and I think I remember Cheerio uses jQuery, under the hood. So it is very familiar with jQuery.
Yeah, Ruby and I have done some work with Puppeteer, and this looks very similar to that as well. So it's a little bit of familiarity. So it looks like we're getting an image, specifically the profile banner hero, and making sure it does not include the default. So I'm guessing we have the default, which tells you that we didn't upload our own custom image. And that's kind of the telltale sign. And if you did do that, you get a point for your score. Same if you got a banner image that's not the default. And then, so it looks like you're kind of getting these specific, divs or images by their class name, I guess, and then making sure it's not the default value and kind of checking by that.
Yeah, so this part here is classic web scraping. Once you have access to the rendered HTML, you're finding, what'd you call them? Are they selectors?
I think so.
Yeah.
You're finding little, what do they call? Oh my God, components by the selector. And so I think, and then you can manipulate them once you grab them from the DOM. I don't know. I'm just throwing words out there. I don't know if this is correct. But good. How do we render the HTML? Postman is a client-side rendered app, right? So if we previously put in postman.com, like open a new tab, or maybe it was a previous request, but let's just hit postman.com and see what we get. Or hit the Women's History Month. Yeah.
Yep.
So collapse the head, or use your, yeah.
Okay. So we've got our body, we've got our style sheet, and then we've got a lot of kind of cascading divs here.
Find content. This is a trick question. Because you won't find any. But like you can collapse, or scroll, and you're getting all the metadata. You're not getting any of the rendered content, right?
Right.
And so let's go back to our workspace linter, and the clue is going to be under the headers.
Okay, we're in our team profile checker in the headers. So we've got this user agent, Googlebot. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yes. So expand the hidden headers.
Okay.
So the hidden headers, I don't know if people know about this, but these are just the automatically generated ones that Postman includes. So is there a user agent here?
So it looks like there's a default user agent. That's the Postman runtime. And you said, I do not want that one.
Yes.
That's what we're probably using the other one.
So by default, like if you expand all of your requests that you're sending, like by default, Postman's going to include the Postman user agent because you're sending the call from Postman, right? And when we just looked at the Women's History Month, we probably go ahead and check, see if that header was there, that user agent header.
Are we placing bets before?
Everyone did.
So there it is. That's a default header, right? Of user agent is Postman because you're sending the call from Postman. But we overrode that user agent as Postman and put in our own. So do y'all know what Googlebot is? I mean, you could probably figure it out from the name. But let's go look at the user agent Googlebot real quick on the header.
Okay.
So what we're telling the endpoint is, endpoint, here's Googlebot. I'm coming as Googlebot. It's who is hitting the endpoint, who is asking for this content. And so if we're asking from Postman, we'll get one set of content, which is very little content. And if we're asking as Googlebot, we'll get another type of content. So when I learned this, again, I didn't find this out on my own. I didn't even know what this concept was. And I was just so used to seeing user agent as Postman. An engineer told me this, Kamal did, and it was just, it blew my mind.
Is it
I would not have thought of that.
Is it like a crawler or like a spider? I forget what they call them.
Yeah, so Google has bots, probably called Googlebot. Google is a search engine, and so they crawl all content, they crawl all HTML, and then they index it so that our search results are more relevant. And, content changes on the internet all the time. So constantly these bots are crawling and indexing and indexing. And so for Postman, the way Postman handles search engine optimization, or SEO, so that we can search for women's history, public workspace, and then find what we're looking for in google.com, is that Postman renders the HTML so that it can be indexed. And so displaying one set of content to one consumer and one set of content to the other consumer who is Googlebot.
That
makes
sounds
sense.
I don't know. I feel like that sounds maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not super legal. Like,
So I think you're probably thinking of SEO cloaking, which is serving up content to one consumer and then different content to another. And so one example of that would be back on Ruby's site. Ruby had a picture of herself in front of the, what is that, a pyramid?
yeah, I think that was Imhotep's pyramid, but yes, a pyramid.
Okay. So if I'm searching for Ruby pyramid, I will probably see that. Maybe I might see that in the search results, or better yet, I'm going to be looking for technical enablement architect. I think you had that next to there. So all the text is really, really easily indexable, but you have an image, and if you stuffed in like keywords in your alt text, you were like pineapple, bananas, kiwi, or something like that, you would increase your ranking in SEO results for those things. Even though to the user, I was looking for kiwis. I don't see any kiwis here, right? And so by serving, if it's Googlebot coming to look at Ruby's personal website and there's a flood of keywords, but then a human going to that website and seeing that's not relevant, that's SEO cloaking. So it's for malicious intent to game SEO. Now,
I guess, sorry, there could be like good use cases for that too. Like, it doesn't seem like it could always be malicious. Right? Like if you're trying to train something to look for certain keywords and maybe see all of some content instead of a limited amount of content, that could be helpful. I don't know. I'm trying to see as from like both sides, I guess, SEO cloaking.
And so if you're trying to train something so that it's more relevant, then having a list of keywords, I mean, you've heard of like keyword stuffing. When you like read blog posts and it's just like buzzword after buzzword after buzzword, that improves your search rankings, but then you also kill your search rankings because humans come and then they read it and they're like, this is not useful. And then they bounce. And so like all of that all of that factors in. So if you're saying I'm trying to train the model to be more relevant, is it truly relevant? And if it is relevant, could you have done it with like a caption that displays to both users? But I think what you're thinking of also is, again, the title of this stream is dynamic rendering. So Google themselves and Bing, if you use Bing, not to deny the Bing users, has said dynamic rendering is how you should be doing things. This is how you index yourselves well for search engine optimization. So SEO cloaking, bad. Dynamic rendering, good. Very, very similar, but for different purposes. One nefarious and one for legit SEO optimization.
Makes sense.
So if we wanted to hit this endpoint, and if we deselect, don't do this because I can't look at HTML anymore. If we wanted to deselect user agent Googlebot and select user agent Postman, we would get very, very different rendered HTML. Okay, so do you have what you need to scrape what you're looking for? Maybe?
I think that was hopefully the hint we need to kind of get more info. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'll unselect this one in case we want it again. And I'll re-enter. Autofill is helpful. So let's see. Seems like it's getting a lot more content this time.
It's taking longer.
Yeah. So we'll collapse the head. This seems like a lot more content is coming back, which is what we want.
Yeah, the
So I wonder
scroll
if we
bar is
can-
tiny.
I won't scroll through it all and narrate it all. I wonder if we search for watch. So something's coming back. We've got information on watch, collection watch button. There's 4 instances. We don't want that. We don't need the CSS. Okay, so we've got like one legit like HTML attribute around watching.
Okay, chippity chop, you got it. Now
Okay.
let's build that visualization.
Let's see where we can go from here. So you've got one around collections, something that checks collections. So I'm going to kind of copy over your Cheerio setup so I don't have to struggle through that. So go into our tests. So we're loading Cheerio from our PM response.text. I don't know if we need this title for now. And then I'll check watch count in this test. Might not need a test, but it's already set up. So here you're getting a div named documentation description. Let's see. Here we've got a div collection watch button. Let me close this. But I want to see where the actual like fork count is. This has a lot of things contained inside of it.
Are you looking for an ID of a div? I don't remember how Cheerio works.
Maybe. I was going to see if we can get further down the chain since it looks
Okay.
like there's a lot of like nested things before we get to like the number.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want the button or anything.
Yeah. So it looks like this one, I think I remember I had like one watch on that collection.
Yes.
So thank you to whoever watched it. So that's a button. It's probably the button where you click watch. Let's see. So we've got an Aether counter button secondary is the class. So I wonder if we could try just searching this and see if this will select what we want. I'm going to copy over this class. Instead of a div, we're searching a button. I'm changing the class name.
Just double checking, does the watch count display within the button? I don't remember how it looks.
So if we go to one of these, we've got watch, and then I guess this is also a button if you click it. right?
Oh, I was the watcher.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Now we're both watching it. So this seems like it's also a button. We want to get like the content of this button. Okay. We don't really care that it doesn't include that. I was going to see if we could just log it. So we can just log kind of what comes back from selecting this. So open our console, clear it out.
Oh, too many parentheses, maybe.
Okay.
Nope.
Good
Oh, there's
call.
an extra.
Okay, so now we're getting this button back, but it's quite big. And it looks like this, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like the number 1 and it's surrounded by a span attribute component. So I remember from Puppeteer, we might can.
What is Puppeteer?
So kind of a headless Chrome browser. We were automating workflows. So we wanted to do a bunch of Postman things without having to actually, log in and do them every day. So you write a Puppeteer script to say, log into Postman, go to this workspace, do this action, maybe like run a collection or watch. And you can do that all with code instead of having to do it yourself.
Like a macro.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're kind of interacting with Chrome. And I think Chrome has that built in to like DevTools now. I've been meaning to try it out. So if we can filter, I guess we want it here in our log. Get just the span. Okay. So I'm sorry, this is so small, but here at the bottom, we've got just the span, but it looks like it's getting both the fork and the watch count because we've got 2 spans and they both have a value of 1.
We want both of them though, right?
Yeah. So it's trying to figure out how to like separate them out. And also how to get the value of not just like the entire span tag, but we just want that like integer value. So right now we're doing to string, which I think we might need like text to get the inner text. Okay.
Isn't there
So
an
now-
inner text? Oh,
Yeah, I was
Coming
thinking
back
like a dot inner text should be maybe a
as
function.
inner text. Let's see. Is there autocomplete on this?
there should be, yeah. I can Google it on the side too. I just learned that we can do, yeah, you know it already. Is it command spacebar? Control spacebar, one of them to trigger the autocomplete?
Yeah, I think I do control space.
It could be that it's like for jQuery and not Cheerio. So
Yeah. So here it looks like it's getting 11. So because we had a fork count of 1 and a watch count of 1, it's like combining them to 1 and 1. Does that make sense?
It's concatenating it as a string.
Yeah. So,
I wonder if we can customize the text to make it more specific. Like if you throw in some quotations in the dot text parentheses, watch count is something, and then fork count is something else. Do you know what I mean?
like
just
one of the class names or something.
Yeah, just to separate them out so they don't concatenate.
Let's see.
Inner text is a native HTML thing if you wanted to try that. I can't quite see, like it's inner and then T. Yep.
Okay. These. Okay, parentheses are always getting me.
While Carson's doing that work, we do have a question from Navia. Is there a way to get data from a database instead of from CSV or an Excel, or like a external data file? And you can always call your database with, like, for example, an HTTP call request if your database allows it. Did it work?
It did not.
Oh.
So I was going back to Ruby's idea of this, seeing if there's like a specific class on like the fork versus the watch span. So on this first one, I've got button underscore styled button text, Aether button text. Looks like they've got very similar like attributes on them. So I wonder, I think I've seen where you can get like the first or the last in a list.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do first and then we'll go back to text because that was getting both values. Okay. So we got the first, I don't know if you can see, we got a 1 return, which seems promising. So we had 1 fork and 1 watch. We're getting the first value text. And I wonder if we can get the second.
Which collection was this again? Can you drop a link in the chat just so I can watch it so we can have a different number than just 1 and 1?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this is the Women's History collection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, put it in our chat.
Okay. Drop a link for that.
Okay. So we're still getting 1, and it seems like this second method didn't work. But since there's only 2 in our list, I wonder if last would work.
Yeah. Good guess.
Okay, we've got 1 and 1. It's not saying which is the fork and which is the watch, but I think they're in order.
But if we're console logging it, we can probably just throw in quotes ahead of it somehow.
Yeah, so we'll do.
I just realized the limitation of the dynamic rendering in our approach. Do you want me to tell you now or later?
Now.
Okay. So I just watched your collection because I wanted to see something different than 1 and 1. I wanted to see 1 and 2. And you just ran the requests again, but you still see 1 and 1. And the reason why, and I forgot this part, is because for SEO rendering, it's not very optimal to like just be render for the Googlebot. So Postman does this every so often. And it's not that frequently that within the course of this stream that it would happen that you would see you would see that second watch turn to a 2 because of that's not how Postman works at this point in time.
Is it just like delayed a bit?
It's delayed, yeah. So they periodically pre-render the HTML so that it can be indexed by Googlebot.
Well, because I gave it a watch too. I was hoping for 3 in there.
We come back in 2 weeks and try it again. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So, oh, I put our like descriptors inside of the Cheerio descriptor, which would not work. So let me try this again.
Okay. Every time somebody works with Cheerio, I think of some British person saying Cheerio.
I think of cereal. I think it's interesting that you think of a British person.
Cheerio. No?
You'll be ready to say Cheerio to this library after the stream. Okay. We got 1 fork and 1 watch from whenever that happened. So we've pulled the data. We need to put it into a visualizer now, I guess. We kind of create a report around this collection. Okay. We'll see if I remember how to do this off the top of my head.
Oh, good. And Navia has discovered that MySQL does have a way to access the database via URL. I think a lot of them do nowadays. So yeah, give it a try.
Okay. So I'm setting up a variable called template, and then we'll do pm.visualizer. set, I think it's template and then data, which we don't have yet.
Nick is asking whether or not is this cross-site scripting? Are we hacking? Are we hacking?
Are we hacking, Nick?
It occurs to me, Carson, you're doing a visualizer and folks watching are probably interested in web dev and like, that kind of thing. And so visualizer might be a new thing.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar, when you send a request in Postman, you can get back the raw data, you can preview it if it's HTML, you can get the JSON or XML or raw HTML, but Postman also lets you, use several libraries to visualize the data, which I think is so much fun. And so how you do that is you set up a template, and usually you can use, Handlebars or any, JavaScript library that you want to import. And then you pass that into this method that sets it up, pm.visualizer.set. You pass in your template and then whatever data you want to populate it with. So we've kind of narrowed down our data here, and we'll need to kind of put it all together into a data object. So we don't really need this test anymore. So I'm going to pull it out and get rid of this.
Sad.
It was a great test that you wrote. Okay.
The visualizer is going to be like a mini front end. I've heard it be called. Right when we select the visualize tab. Sorry. At the end when we send the request, because I've seen that tab and I've always been curious, like what shows up there. So is this what we would see there?
Yeah, so anything that's inside of your template is what will be displayed in the Visualize tab, assuming you get no errors, which there are always errors at first.
Cool. And Ruby just said mini front end, which is very similar to a buzzword I've heard, which is micro front end. So I just Googled it. I don't think it means the same thing. But maybe it does. Micro front end, very hot right now.
Okay, so I'm just setting up a data object, and I'll put, properties of watches and forks. We'll just populate these by copying over kind of what we already logged. And hope that this works. So got our data objects. We need something to display it. I guess we'll just start with, you guys want to just throw it in some headers and then we can add something to make it prettier.
Are you going to use a library?
So I have this table library that I like to use as kind of like a template, but we don't have like a list of collections yet.
Okay.
So we need
literally
like
two numbers that we want to display.
We could do this and then build on top of it. I'm not really sure where to go from here.
Oh, that would be neat if you had a collection of different endpoints that you're just preserving that data, and then at the very end we have a huge table.
Yeah,
I mean, let's start.
Okay, we'll start small.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the syntax, but it's something like data forks. Anyone remember how to access the data off the top of their head?
Is it PM dot? Is that what you're asking about? PM.response.data.
I think inside of handlebars, there's like a syntax.
I always look at the docs.
Is it single curly brackets that you need for that?
Maybe. We'll try it. Okay. We'll try sending it, see what it tells us. So now we have the Visualize tab. Okay. Oh, Arlene says double curly brackets. We'll keep adding curly brackets until it works.
Arlemy, you're on vacation.
Okay. that did something. Maybe we don't need the leading data because we're already passing it in. Okay. That's right.
Yay! So you're just accessing the property name that you passed through from the initializing function, correct?
Right. Since we passed in this data object down here, it already knows that we're working with data. So we'll just put the property that we want from there. Cool. So
This is beautiful. Visualization
our
complete.
beautiful friend. Should we do it with, oh, Arlemi's going back to vacation.
Bye, Arlemy.
Thank you, Arlemy. Appreciate it.
He just comes by and drops some knowledge.
The best. Okay. Should we do this for kind of all the collections we've outlined? Save
Yes.
it and then display
So
it?
we also need like the title of the collection or some, especially if we're going to do more than one.
Right. Is that what you're getting here? Probably. Right. Should we check that the title is what we want?
I don't know what it is.
We'll try it. Okay. Here's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's getting the collection name, the workspace name, and then the Postman API network, which seems like
I think
good
that's
information.
the page title, like the metadata.
Okay.
Yeah. The HTML title.
Should we stick with this or try and narrow it down to just the collection name?
If you're going to pull multiple collections from a page, I don't know how that works. How does that work? It's up to you. What's most meaningful? I'm sorry. I'm backseat driving now.
Okay. I think we'll leave it like this because I like having, what workspace it's in. So I don't know. We can edit it later. So let's add this to our data object. We'll add the title. Data title equals title. And then we'll just save this data object as Carson's collection. We'll do it for Ruby's collection, and we'll put it in a table. We'll do PM collection variables set, say Carson collection, and then I always forget to stringify the JSON, and it leads to a whole thing. Do we need to stringify it if it's just this data object? Try
You
it.
can always try and fail and then edit later.
That's true. Okay. So we'll send this. See if it's saved. Okay. So we've got Carson's collection. We'll do the same for Ruby's collection.
Competition's on.
The suspense is building. Okay.
Okay, now we've got some time to place bets.
And I also want an emoji in the visualization. Can you make that happen?
What kind of emoji use are you thinking?
Like leaderboard, like competitive.
A trophy emoji for the winner?
The sweating emoji, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
The loser gets the sweating emoji and the winner.
The winner put in the hard work, so they've been sweating.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make another request that's like competition's on. Okay, so now I need to get the data we just saved. Collection variables, get person collection. And then I think we'll need to JSON parse that.
I don't know if Navia is talking about how awesome this leaderboard is going to be or accessing MySQL database, but I'm going to say it's this leaderboard's really shaping up. Awesome.
Okay, let's make sure we've got Ruby's collection saved. I guess we didn't send this, which is a crucial step in saving your variables.
Yeah. Would that title issue that we had before kind of mess with things here, since you're using the title of like the HTML title?
Let's see. And because it's a different page, or I guess I'm not following.
It's a different page. It's trippy because the surround is the same, but it's a different page.
Okay. So I was just noticing that on the one that we saved for Ruby, it's not getting the watch count or the fork count, and the title is just Postman. So we're going to have to do some digging on why it's not getting the counts. So let's see what's coming back in the console. It's saying, no, we're not getting the right thing.
Did you
Competition's
add
not
the
good.
Did you add the header to this one?
No, that is a great call.
Nice.
This is why it takes 3 of us. Okay.
But that's a great example. Like even if you didn't believe that Googlebot gets a different response, like there it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'll unselect this one. Okay. Now we've got our beautiful
Ooh.
visualization.
I like the
I'm sure
symmetry
this
here. The
is-
people forking are also watching. That's nice.
Yeah. Okay. Ruby
Okay.
collection.
We do have confirmation. It is, wow, awesome. Dynamic rendering. Dynamic rendering is pretty amazing. It's super fascinating. So I'm glad we're having an entire stream about it.
I feel like this is going to open up like a whole new world of things to tinker with. I'm excited. Okay. We'll save this as Carson. This is Ruby. We will get our starter visualization copied over. Okay. So we can make a table. I was talking earlier about this Women's History Month workspace. I put a lot of visualizations in here that sometimes I like to just, if I've already made a visualization, kind of copy over whatever's there as a template instead of setting it all up by hand. So if anyone happens to be following along, you're welcome to copy this over as well. If you go to the workspace overview, you can kind of see which request has which visualization. So this one, if you send it like every movie, you'll get a different breakdown of, dialogue. But it's got this table, which is a library that we can use. It's pretty simple to set up. This Industry Trailblazers has it as well. I'll copy it over.
First of all, that table, besides being beautiful, it's such a fascinating topic. It's film dialogue by gender.
Yeah. I found it very fascinating. These people did like this whole research project. There's like 2,000 films in there, so you can go through and kind of explore. It's really interesting.
Is that the Bechdel or like that whatever thingy test?
Kind of related. So the Bechdel test is like if 2 women talk to each other in a movie not about a man. So kind of related.
Oh,
But
so
this is more
fascinating.
like
I'm going to dig into this endpoint after this stream.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll copy over everything in here, and then we'll kind of go over what we're doing. Okay. So I'll make this bigger. So what we've got going on here is we've got our style tag, and we've got some CSS. We might not need this because it was already set up for a different project, but we'll see how it turns out. And then we're importing a style sheet from datatables.net, and then jQuery, and then the script for datatables.net. And then we've got our header, the title, and we'll say, what's the title of our competition?
Best winner.
Best winner. I like it. Okay. So this one had like 5 columns. We'll see. Okay, we've got collection. And then we have fork count and watch count. I think we'll just go to 3 columns for now. So we only have like 3 data points. We'll go. We named our thing title, forks, watches. Okay. So that's our table. This is using the double curly brace notation that Arlemy so kindly reminded us of. And so we're setting up our table header here in this TR tag. And then in the table body, we're iterating through each item of the data. And so for each data, we'll get the title, the forks, and the watches, and that'll populate a data row. And so we don't have our data object set up here yet. We do have Carson and Ruby, so we'll make a data object. There's probably a much cleaner way to do this, but we'll do.
I love watching people code because you totally understand how they think. Like Ruby, you were the same way too. Like when you're in Postman, you're like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is set up a collection, and then I add my request to the collection. And then like Carson, you're so methodically going through things, and your code is so crystal clear. Like it's totally not the way I think. And so I love, it's like a peek into somebody's mind. Not to make you feel self-conscious.
Scattered. Yeah. But it gets messy. Yeah. Okay, so we need to combine both of these into a data object. So do we have any JavaScript shortcuts, or should we just kind of hard code it in for now?
Yeah, I guess you could throw that into a variable too, just so, I don't know, you're not constantly repeating that.
What do you mean?
Or it could be like an array and you could pop it on. Or I mean, sorry, push it on?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So data would need to be an array. And then we could push Carson, Ruby. Then we're setting that. We'll see. Okay, request URL is empty. We'll need to send something even though we're not really getting any data. We'll just grab the same URL and disregard what comes back. Okay, unexpected token. Let's look in the console.
You.
Let's see. Let's log this data and see if we at least get here. Okay, it's not making it there. Are we getting the right variable names? Ruby's collection. That would be it. We misspelled the name. Okay.
Eagle eye.
Okay, we've got our table, but no data. Interesting.
It is logging though, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's logging Ruby. Let's log our data object again and just see what we've got going on. So, oh, we're still logging Ruby. We've got an array of 2 items. We've got watches, forks, and title. So if we go here, we're passing in data. We've got watches, forks, and title. So these are matching up. Passing in our template and our data object.
Is there like somewhere where we, I guess, should have been using square brackets since we're using an array? I feel like it's always syntax with me.
Yeah, same. So we've got our data array here. We're pushing it. We can see we've got an array. We're iterating through each item in data. Let's see how we had this one set up. So here we've got data. That's getting the response.
It's an array of objects.
Yes.
Arlen needs to come back from vacation.
I know. Paging Arlen. Okay.
And you're passing through data, and what you're passing through data is, it's kind of weird because the execution order is like you're defining data at the top and then you're initializing at the bottom to pass through to the.
Yeah. Should we put it down below? I don't know that it makes a difference.
No, it shouldn't. Yeah. And data is an array. In the console, you can see.
Yeah, so here, I don't know if you can see it, we've got an array of 2.
I'm curious, instead of using the iteration with handlebars where you have each, since we know it's only 2 data points, would it work if you just like hard coded with square brackets 0, square brackets 1? I'm just curious if it even populates.
We could try that. Okay, we might need to do like data Carson equals Carson, and then data Ruby equals Ruby. Make this an object. We'll get rid of these. And then we'll access it via Carson title. Then Ruby.
And we have time for an emoji.
Oh, we're not ending our each block. I'll take this out.
We did have a helper saying that we could have done it with data, first item, title. The handlebars, if you do the each handlebars, it should iterate over every object in the array and access it via property title. But I think there must have been some like structural misfire.
Yeah, I must have messed it up. But okay, for now we have our collections, our forks, and our watches. So where is the best place to add the emoji? Should we just append it to
the title? Yes.
That's not very dynamic. Okay.
It should be if the value is greater than 3. I'm sorry, I can't see. I don't want to. Then it's sweating face, because the sweating face is the winner.
Okay. So we don't have an array anymore, so we'll have to check manually. Is this what you were thinking?
I'm looking for conditional handlebars. There is, so I just looked up handlebars documentation. If you go to where the curly brace, you're displaying the title or the title, wrap that title in another double curly brace in the displayed title. Sorry, not the header, but the value.
Okay, like the table data.
Carson title. So wrap Carson title in a double curly brace.
People.
Hashtag if.
Okay.
Sorry, we're here. Let me drop this into the triad so you can see what I'm talking about. I am not good with words.
Okay.
So a double curly brace opener, hashtag if.
Okay.
Then you'll want to do Carson.forks is greater than. Actually, oh gosh, we're making it real complicated. Maybe we just end with a trophy emoji for both of you because everyone's a winner.
Yeah, we'll append it. Wish there's a way to get like a random emoji, like faker data, but for
Is
emoji.
there a random emoji?
Is there?
I don't know. I wish there was.
Oh.
What's the trick for? Do you just search emoji, like copy paste emoji?
That's what I do.
Unicode or something.
Oh,
Whatever
gosh.
it is.
I copy and paste.
There's that too.
And Tan Mayo was saying arrays are accessed by index number. And when you're writing the vanilla JavaScript, that's correct. But we were using handlebars front end, little handlebars. What is handlebars? Front end framework. It's a framework. Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's sweating.
Oh gosh. Well, that was great. Let me bring the leave the leaderboard up, but I'll bring the chat back on screen. Oh my gosh, we did a ton. Does anybody, I'm fine to summarize what we did, but does anyone want to take a stab at what the ground we covered?
You got it.
Yeah.
So much. Does anyone want to do it or?
Joyce, I think you are.
Okay. Okay. I'll make our faces big. We actually covered a lot of ground. This was fun for me because I'm not a web dev and I don't really understand how like web pages are rendered and how you can programmatically access some of that information. So Carson wanted to scrape a Postman workspace for forks and watches. And so we initially just looked at like the URL, but noticed that you can't really see all the stuff that's rendered. We synced our cookies. We learned how to sync our cookies with Chrome browser to Postman so that we can see at least a logged in view. But the syncing cookies was not a great programmatic way to later on continue scraping this data. And so then we updated our user agent from Postman sending the call to Googlebot sending a call because we know that Postman pre-renders content, pre-renders all the HTML so that it can be indexed for search engines like Googlebot. And so then we were able to access that HTML. And once we accessed that HTML, we were able to scrape and pick fork count and watch count and display it in a beautiful visualization. What's the library you used, Carson?
I think it's called datatables.net.
Every time you do a visualization or I watch you do a visualization, you use a different library, but that's pretty badass. I am going to drop a link to 2 workspaces that I think are pretty neat that I hadn't spent too much time on before, but it's the Women's History Month and the Black History Facts. Some neat collections, neat endpoints, neat APIs in there, created by each of you. So I think You guys are creators, influencers, if you will. And so we're right at the end of our time, but we always like to end these streams with a little shout out. So I'll give you some time to think about that. I will give a shout out for next week's stream, next Thursday, same time, same place. Come back. We are having, I believe it's Pooja and Sean are coming to explore API-driven workflows. So what does that mean? I'm guessing it's going to be something about API ops. And I know, Carson, you've built a bunch of things to just kind of mash together a bunch of APIs to, again, programmatically do some things. So next week, stay tuned for that. And then in 1 month, we're having a San Francisco meetup. If you're in the area, stop by the Postman office for a meetup. And we also have a workshop for API first design. So I will drop the links in the chat, but go ahead. What are your community shout outs?
I have a shout out for Navia and her just general enthusiasm about databases and dynamic rendering. So shout out to you for all your excitement.
I love it. Mine, I think I saw Valentin Despa hit like 1 million subscribers or viewers on his free code camp course, which I think is amazing. I've learned much from him, and I know everyone else has. So just want to say congratulations. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, Valentin is one of the OG supernovas, Postman experts, and he's also the highest rated Postman instructor on Udemy. Highest rated.
Lots of good stuff.
Okay, well, Ruby, Carson, thank you so much for coming on this stream. I had a blast. I like these free end form kind of streams where we just kind of slowly meander around a couple different options. I find it relaxing. So hopefully everyone joins us again next week. I am going to say sayonara until next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Yeah.